Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Overlap Podcast with me, Sid Sexton, and my good friend Keith Glines. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Sid.
And the Overlap Podcast, we're expanding all areas of life through the lessons of business. And if you're new to the Overlap Podcast or just tuning in for, first time in a while, the Overlap Podcast is where we discuss and study the overlaps between work, fitness, family, faith, parenting, and leadership. Because we know that by becoming better in one aspect of your life helps you become better in all aspects of life. And we're really trying to simplify big business brilliance for small business leaders. That seems like a broad target, but it's pretty narrow in scope. And what we're really doing is saying to you, the listener, that through the lessons of business, you can become better in everything that you do. Bettering your business will help you better your life and those around you's lives. So that's really what this podcast is all about. And we're glad you tuned in, and let's get going on this one.
This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
I always like something new.
Yeah. So
when I have a new realization, at 47, you think you don't have a whole lot of those, but I keep getting more and more.
Yeah, man. The more you press the envelope and try new things, the more will be revealed, right?
Yeah. So
today, the title of this is "Begin with the End in Mind." Lots of people have heard that. That's pretty. Here's a fancy word: ubiquitous in business lingo, in the lexicon of business journals. I think that's a Stephen Covey thing.
Yeah, but I've heard that a bunch, but I don't know that I've ever thought about it in this perspective.
Yeah, this is a different perspective.
Because I really think that anytime your eyes are open to a epiphany, so to speak, and that's kind of what happened to me this last week. So we can dig into that.
Yeah. Well, so today's episode, Keith has had an epiphany, as you have all heard already. And what we decided to do is I'm just going to kind of interview Keith. He's gone a couple of different places. Number one, he was gone so long that my wife thought he actually moved. If you know us or ever been around us and our little group of friends, what's the best way to crap talk is kind of our love language. And so we've got a little group text going, and Scott, one of our buddies, is kind of the ringleader of the crap talk. And if Keith is gone, he'll message him every day asking him about his workout, and then I'll chime in a good amount. And then it got to get going. It snowballed into Keith has now moved, and he was gone long enough, or it felt long enough, that my wife actually believed that Keith moved and didn't tell us, and or didn't come by and say goodbye or something.
Yeah, I went from the mountains to the East Coast in 2 weeks, and so
West Coast,
man.
Oh yeah, all right. So, all right, Keith. So, what did you do this past week?
This past week, I went to a conference. We like conferences.
I love a conference. As long as they're short. I don't want like a 1 week long.
Well, this one was 1 week long.
Oof, yeah.
So it was deep, but it was in life sciences, in the med tech industry.
Life sciences.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was with biologists and doctors and people making the world a better place through health.
Okay. And why were you there? How,
so one of my,
how does Keith Glines get to life science?
I've been in this place asking myself how I end up in a lot of places that I end up, but the way that I ended up here was
pretty sure I know how you got to jail, but,
yeah,
the life science conference, med tech. No, I'm not connecting the dots. Go ahead.
So in one of my roles, many roles that I play in the movies is the experience architect and creative director for Hatch. And
Okay.
so
What is Hatch?
Hatch is a technology incubator funded by the state that is responsible for bringing new technology into Alabama.
Okay.
And new startups, people who have great ideas that we can help facilitate, that is either from Alabama that are looking at using Alabama as a base.
Okay.
And so somehow
Wait, so just Hatch. Obviously, with the name, you're trying to hatch new businesses or new ideas.
Correct. It is associated with the Baldwin County Economic Alliance.
Okay.
And over the last really three or 4 years, the state has seen a great opportunity in technology services or businesses because specifically of the technology coming in out of the med tech space, like UAB, South Alabama, the medical facilities at South Alabama. Believe it or not, there's great technology in the medical space coming out of Alabama right now.
Okay.
And so the state has put $100 million in a fund, and they've chosen Hatch as one of the people that get to use that money to bring in tech businesses into the state.
Okay. So,
how they found me is a convoluted, really long story over the last few years of working with our friend Rick Miller and the 20 years of mistakes and trials I've had in the technology world.
Okay.
So
you this is kind of a new role for you.
It is a new role. It's a new in the consulting world we call it a contract. So it's a new type contract for Back Porch Productions. So
okay. Good deal.
So that's how I ended up at a medical conference with the smartest people in the world minus me.
Okay. Yeah. So you went in as an imposter, and you
yeah, totally so.
and so you fly out to this conference. Are you with Rick?
I am with
Okay, so you and Rick.
Rick is the director of Hatch. So he is, and he kind of has the pedigree to be there, being that he is a Harvard graduate.
Okay. So you're out there, you're able to, and so what is this conference?
So this is called the Life Sciences Conference. So it is where the innovators in the medtech world, in the medical world, go to present their new ideas, philosophies, and businesses. And so this is a venture capital conference where venture capitalists come, and what we were doing is sitting in pitches for 4 days of new companies promoting their new technologies.
Okay.
And so it's basically an auction of venture capitalists that can invest in these businesses. And so one of the roles that Hatch does is seed round funding. And if you don't understand what
let's
seed round,
unpack that just a little bit.
So seed round funding is the money to start an initial idea.
Okay. And which is right in Hatch's purview.
You're right.
And then there's round. So you're talking like round A, B, and C.
Round A, B, and then typically where Hatch stays is around that A, B, and then they'll hand it off. And we can talk about this later, and it may be getting a little deep.
That's
about,
probably
dilution and all of that stuff in the capital world.
Yeah. So then, so you set through some pitches.
I did.
Were there some like keynote speakers or anything?
There were some keynote speakers from Microsoft and Microsoft's medical division and Stanford University and Harvard University and all of these thought leaders in this space that has sold companies from anywhere from 20 million to $1 billion.
So first question, was Dr. Andrew Huberman there?
No, he was not. Yeah, it would have been great.
Can you really call it a life science conference without him there? I don't know.
I don't know. I was hoping he would be there and that I would get to hang out with him.
Was Peter Attia there?
He was not.
Oh, my God.
No.
So you had the B team there.
Yeah, the B team.
Oh, these are the startups.
The startups,
The people that don't, the people that need your money, and those two guys don't.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Hey, if you guys don't know who those two individuals are, go check them out. They're pretty fantastic when it comes to like health, wellness, and all that other stuff.
My two favorite podcasts in the sciences.
They're pretty great. Okay, so you're sitting through. There's keynote speakers. There's pitches because they are, like you said, looking for funding to get their idea, their software, their tech company off the ground and get it going.
Right.
Okay. So, what are some of the highlights?
The highlights were more of what I picked up from the innovators and creators, how they looked at their startups. Now, realize this. Most of these innovators had done this before.
Okay. Yeah.
So they've created businesses in some way that has gone on to either sell or are they're currently operating businesses that has been bought.
Okay.
By larger companies.
Okay.
Because the medical field is different in the fact that it's very hard to operate a medical business when you're talking about doing procedure type stuff or creating a medical device that is going to be adopted by the masses.
Okay.
Without it being owned by Pfizer.
Okay.
Without it being owned by Stryker or one of the larger medical giants, behemoths.
So are you saying that when you're coming up with an idea for a product and a business to produce that product, you're speaking of beginning with the end in mind, you're thinking of who you're going to sell this for, to who you're going to sell this to and what it is and packaging it in a way that it fits them.
Right. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was that's what they led with in their pitch.
Okay. Got it.
They would literally get up on the stage and they would say, before I tell you this, and before I get into what our product or service or business can do, let me tell you the technology that's already being applied in the industry mainstream owned by these behemoths.
Yeah.
Right? So sitting there, I was thinking, have I even identified those people in my business?
So you like identified who your target market is?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's when the title Begin with the End in Mind came in.
Sure.
And like I told you, that's one of the first things I told you when I got back was, have you even thought about who your company can potentially sell to? And would that change any way you've done business in the last 20 years had you began that way? And I had to look at my business and say, probably so.
Yeah. Yeah. So was that the epiphany right there?
That was
the epiphany, is that, these guys and gals are getting up and beginning the idea, getting something off the ground with their pitch, knowing exactly who their target is, what they're looking to do, which is to build up this service or this product and then sell to this organization.
Yeah, or either have in mind of who they can collaborate with.
Okay.
So if this individual doesn't buy it, but we can collaborate with them, we get their technology anyway. You get what I mean?
No.
So what I mean is this, is who can I collaborate with to make me look not more legitimate in the market.
Okay. So add credibility?
Can I go along and collaborate with a larger company?
Stryker,
Pfizer,
whatever. Yeah.
Bayer, whoever, Johnson & Johnson, all those people that own medical type industry. can I go? Can my product accommodate theirs?
Okay.
Or
my software.
Accompany it. Yeah. Or accompany it in some way.
Yeah. Or Kaiser Permanente and do the billing for them or whatever.
Yeah. And so, I think when we start a business and when, I've done it several times now, and I don't know that I ever went in with the philosophy of what problem does my business solve in this global market?
Okay.
So to speak.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody does.
And you never started the business with an exit in mind either.
Right.
Yeah.
Sid and Keith, when I was on your podcast, I shared my story of how I was $250,000 in debt, and then how I turned my business around and grew it into a highly profitable multi-million-dollar lawn and landscape business. I'm Steve Bousquet, and we've created a program consisting of courses and coaching that guide people through the process and tools I use to turn my business around and grow it into a highly profitable multi-million-dollar lawn and landscape business. You can find out more how I did this by visiting greenprofitacademy.com or by going to Amazon and buying our book, Profit First for Lawn Care and Landscape Businesses, right on Amazon.
Hey guys, this is Keith. Let me break down a scenario for you. Are you a business owner that is overwhelmed by the options of investing, but you're being told you need to invest in retirement, you need to invest in mutual funds, you need to buy some single stocks? Well, I have your fix. C2 Wealth Strategies, ran by our friend Wes Cody. Their website is c2wealth.com. If you are looking at investing at all and are confused by it, give them a call today. They will be happy to handle whatever you need. He's brought up very specific things that I need to be working on as a business owner in my investing life. Let him do that same thing for you. c2wealth.com.
Okay, guys, everyone knows if you're a business owner, a business leader, or you're just a person in the world needing help with accounting, you need a real partner. You need someone that's going to listen to you and not just plug numbers in to make their job easy to do your taxes. At least that's what I want. I've been through a lot of accountants in my life, and I have yet to find one even remotely as good as Johnny Baranco. He's the owner of Baranco and Associates, and he's the kind of guy that really doesn't manipulate your books to make his job easier. He really is trying to give you insights into your business or into your financial planning world. Whatever your goals are, he's there to help. And so I just encourage you to give him a call. Baranco and Associates, look him up online. It's barancoandassociates.com and just see if he can help you. He really is the accountant that I recommend to everyone, even before he was a sponsor of the podcast. So please, if you need an accountant, just do yourself a favor and give him a call.
Yeah, I just started a business because I had babies. I didn't fit in the corporate world well, and I just needed money, right? And I think that's what we get that's what we all do as small business owners but seeing a different approach really in one specific industry. And this is what I love about what I do, is I get to see so many different sides and different industries, is looking at how they do it in other places.
Okay.
And we talk about all the time getting education, and I think that's what you're doing through the
Austin group.
The Austin group too, is you get to see so many different people in so many different in so many different industries. And I think a lot of times we just focus on our industry and whatever we're doing, and we never look outside to say, what can we take from that and apply here?
Yeah.
Right.
And I was actually listening to you, and you're kind of touching on it. So, this is what I think you're saying too, is that with this interaction with those folks, you're getting to see that the people, these smart people that are building a service or a product or a software, that are in that arena that you got to witness, are taking a much larger and more visionary approach other than an operator approach.
Right.
So if you go back to really, I think our first or our second podcast was on the E-Myth. And so the E-Myth talks about there's operators, right? Just the technician. And the technician is like the plumber that does a good job plumbing and fixing, leaks and toilets and stuff like that, right? And there's, the world needs those and that's a thing, right? And it's good. But then, if you're going to start a business, being a good plumber is like just one facet of it. And then you've got to go to the manager, and the manager's got to be able to schedule and, hire people and get people on board and show them what productivity looks like, right? And then there's the entrepreneur, which is the next level, the third level. Who is your target market? How do you reach them? What is important to them, right?
Right.
And then really even one further beyond that is like probably entrepreneurship, not 201, but maybe 401. This is like graduate level of, what's my exit strategy? What's the value? What's the enterprise value of this business, and how can I increase this to a certain point that these people will pay a premium for this? And when I say these people, you know who your target audience is, you know what they're looking for, and you know how to make it easy for them to buy you.
Right.
If that's your plan. Maybe it's not your plan. So,
well, I think
that's what it sounds like you're saying.
Right. And I think we all need to take inventory about if we're creating something that we're not planning on it living beyond us, maybe we don't have a business.
Well, yeah, maybe, yeah, this podcast may not be the time for me to argue on that because I've got opinions. And as I've gotten older, I have softened on a lot of opinions. But I do think that, if you're going to take it to the next level, at least you're thinking about it. If you're going to take your thinking about your business to the next level, thinking about the end or an exit or how the business lives beyond you is kind of next level and forces you to think about your business in a different way. And I think that's kind of what you were saying about your epiphany, was just kind of blew the doors open on that level of thinking, that there is another level beyond just serving this customer day to day, just beyond the next project or just beyond the next year, and things of that nature, or just beyond operating in this space and in this business, and trying to maximize profits or whatever it is.
Yeah, one of the pitches I sat in was a sleep pitch.
Yeah.
And this company she started as a sleep therapist.
I think Rick was telling me about this. Go ahead. She was a swimmer at the Air Force Academy?
Yep, at the Air Force Academy. Just became a sleep therapist and said, how do I help, very successful in what she was doing. But she was like, how do I help globally in this, just had one little office in New York. And then how do I help globally? So she put a plan together and a pitch together for this sleep product which is so, so cool. I'm trying to become involved in it because I liked it so well. But it was the perfect example of beginning with the end in mind, that she really never began in it. But once she got that in her mind, she adapted what she was doing to be able to solve a global issue from a little office in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what
I'm trying to have a greater impact.
Yeah. So what are you doing now that you can have a greater impact later if you build it out the right way? And so she changed kind of focus of what she was building to be able to do that. And I'm going to have her on this podcast because she's flipping amazing.
Yeah. And we actually have someone that we're trying to coordinate schedules that does venture capital.
Yeah.
To have a discussion about that, because I think venture capital, rightly so, has kind of a bad rap because they can come in and sort of
take you over
and pick it apart and just
change kind of the course.
Yeah, and you've got someone, entrepreneurs kind of suck at reporting to someone,
right? Yeah,
and so there's that, but there's some good ones out there too, and
well,
they're just options. They're just options,
and that's a whole another thing that I saw at this meeting was, we think that these very intelligent people a lot of times really are secluded to themselves, and they sit in this bubble, but everyone was so genuine to help.
Yeah.
And so I went there thinking I'm going to be with a lot of pricks. And I came away thinking, man, it's amazing that the smartest people some of the smartest people on the planet are so genuine. And really their intentions are good. Yeah. So you think that all this money and all of these big corporations and all of this good stuff, but like these people, from my perspective, and I know the medical field gets a bad rap a lot of times.
Yeah, probably.
But from my perspective, sitting with some of the top leaders in the world, their hearts seemed right. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you.
And so I think that beginning with the end in mind is not necessarily, how do I sell to a large corporation? But what I took away from it is, what is the end? So whatever I'm creating, I need to know the technology or the structure that it can fit in to help a larger issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How can I have the greatest impact with this idea, this product, this service?
Right.
Yeah. And
how do I pinpoint the exact large organization that can help me get the largest broadcast? How do I come alongside them?
Yeah. How can you partner with someone to make greater impact?
Right.
Yeah. Well, so that does sound like a pretty big epiphany, and probably changed the way you thought about a lot of things. What I'm trying to bring this larger subject down. I got a couple of questions. What would you want your 30-year-old Keith to know, if you could go back in time 20 years
Yeah,
to go back in time and tell the 30-year-old Keith from this epiphany, from this experience, and go, hey, dude, you ought to think about this.
First off, I would say,
and let's take whatever that publishing and all the stuff that you're in.
So first off, I would say, hey, you got time.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I think we think, and we get to, because we do this podcast, we get to talk to a lot of young entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah.
And they feel that they're behind the ball. And I would say, you're not behind the ball.
Yeah.
That what you're creating is viable and valuable, and to just continue doing what you're doing, but do it in a smarter way.
Okay. So you would tell 30-year-old
so I would tell my 30-year-old,
what does a smarter way mean?
Meaning, don't just look at it as a means to provision, which is what our businesses are.
That's a good way of putting it. Yep.
Don't look at it as a way of means to provision, but look at it as a way to help. How does this fit in to make a greater impact?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we talk about a lot when you get to the stage that we're at, and we're actually able to sit back and think a little more instead of just the doing all the time. That opens our minds up to a greater viewpoint.
Fair.
It's the difference between starting a hike and finishing it at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you finish it at the top, you get to see the beautiful thing that you just walked up.
Yeah.
And so 47-year-old me gets to kind of see the beautiful thing that I just walked up. But 30-year-old me was just grinding, and I could just see what was at my feet.
So you would tell 30-year-old you've got time.
Yep.
And then try to do whatever you're doing smarter.
Right.
What else? Anything else?
And that what I do matters. Because a lot of times I would think when I would do that nobody cares about this.
Okay. Why would you think? Why do you think that? Why do you think?
Well, because I wasn't making a great impact then.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I was thinking about that question.
What would you tell yourself?
Well, I didn't go to that conference, but
no. What would you tell? But what would you say? Over what we've talked about. Begin with the end in mind.
I would say so. Begin with the end in mind, and I would say about. I think I was 30. Maybe I was 32. I was somewhere right around 30, though. I was around 30 when I read the Living Forward book by Dan Harkavy and Michael Hyatt. And in that book, it really took, that whole, I think that's Stephen Covey or one of those others that talks about, writing your eulogy,
Yep.
And I'd kind of read that, and I think that's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People a long time before. I might have read that when I was 20. But I read that book, which is totally about building a life that at the end of it, lots of people are going to be at your funeral. And so I've kind of carried that since. And so since 30, I've been trying to help others through the lens of business because I felt like that's what God gave me. I kind of woke up and kind of had this growing business and had people working for me. And I was really probably struggling with what's this all for, like you were saying. And I was like, man, this is a business filled with people that are second chancers, because not many people are growing up going, I want to be a landscaper when I grow up. Some of them do. And lots of them struggle to find a career path in that. And then some folks, have some bumps in the road. And so we take them on board and try to give them some help. And then, so I think I was on that track beginning with end in mind. I never thought about it in the big aspect of how do I, and this is kind of the epiphany I've been having too, is how do I maximize enterprise value? And that comes with understanding the market and what, if I was to have an exit, what would that look like? Who would be the players and what are they looking for? And only reason I'd be doing that because I like what I'm doing would just to make sure I have options, but then also that sort of leads you to a better path forward with the folks that you have. I don't want to get into a situation where I have to have a fire sale or get into a situation where I'm in a really bad spot because I've been there before, and I feel like when I add team members, it's my responsibility to be a good steward of their faith in coming on board with us. So I'm kind of thinking forward 5 years, 10 years. What's the market looking like and how is it moving? That's a long-winded answer to just go, let me answer your question more directly. You asked me, what would I tell 30-year-old me? I think I would tell myself, one, you've got time because there is that pressure on the back of your mind going, I got to get this done today. The other thing I would say is try to cut out all the crap and the distractions and try to get real focused on what's most important. What's the highest and best use of my time? What's the highest and best use of our assets? What's the highest and best use of our gifts? That's what I would say. And in my maturity, especially over the last 5 years, in my 40s, I think that I've learned a little bit more about discernment. Just, who am I hanging out with? What am I doing with my time? Who am I talking with? What am I reading? What am I listening to? All of that stuff. And being much more conscientious about that. What am I eating? Even down to that. What am I drinking? And making sure that I'm being conscious about that. That's what I would tell myself.
And then I would say to the person just starting the idea, just starting their business, just starting, is believe in what you're doing.
Okay.
Because it matters.
Okay.
So sitting through, I probably sat through 12 pitches of brand new startups, brand new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
The goal to get it in the medical world is to get FDA approved.
Yeah.
Right? So these people were even before that.
Mm-hmm.
They had to really believe in what they were doing.
Yeah.
To be asking for the money they were asking for.
Yeah. Well, it costs a lot to get FDA approved.
Right. It does. So, and we've all heard the term clinical trials and all that kind of stuff, but these people were before all of that, and they just had an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And they were standing up in front of people that could make their idea happen.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're bootstrapping your business or you're asking for people to help you start it, the belief in the idea that you have requires that you do the work on the front end to know that it's going to work.
Mm.
And a lot of times I think we get into business and we go into business. I know I did. And a lot of times we don't even know if it's going to work.
Mm.
And so having the belief that what you're starting is going to work has to do with the research that you do to know what you're doing is viable to the market.
Okay. So do your homework so then you feel confident in your idea, so then you can actually believe in it when you're tested.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then I saw the ability to transition. So a lot of these guys were starting businesses. They had been doing what they were doing for a couple years, and then they saw where the idea fits in a different sector.
Mm.
Right? So maybe if you're struggling today and you feel like you're pushing a ball uphill,
mm-hmm.
look into different avenues and we talk about this a lot, look at different avenues where your product may work.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What, anything else on this conference, this epiphany, this new role, this new you?
No, I think it's not really. I mean, I have been. I think this is the next chapter. Another chapter.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think that you have to be willing a lot of times. If I had been closed-minded,
mm-hmm.
this wouldn't have come along.
Why do you say that?
Because it was not. Well, I can say this. If I hadn't have had my VTO, this wouldn't have come along.
Okay.
Because
unpack that for a minute.
Because it fits in my VTO, but it doesn't fit in the actual product that my business provided.
Okay, explain that.
Meaning, I'm a media company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, what I do here, what I'm doing here is media.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to it, it's marketing, it's all of that stuff, but it's not traditional.
Your work with Hatch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not working with a company providing a marketing ideas, even though I do that at Hatch. But My job is more awareness, right, at Hatch. So
but that requires marketing, right?
But it requires marketing.
Okay.
But I would have never, this is not something that I pursued. It's something that came along, right?
Mm-hmm. And you were able to say yes because
I had gotten myself ready to be able to have my thing that provides my meals.
Mm-hmm. Your provision
in a state that I have the time to do this.
Okay.
But when you look at what it's going to do overall for my media company, it's pretty phenomenal. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at there.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like if you hadn't have had your landscape business in the position for you to take your mind away and start a gym and start a jiu-jitsu gym and start a real estate company and start all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are lessons learned in each one of those aspects that can overlap into all the others.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely so.
All right. Well, thank you for that insight and the reminder that we should begin with the end in mind. And I guess for the listener, you may think, oh my God, this is big tech and they're talking about sales to, behemoths and other things. I think the concept for you, if you're just getting started or you're rocking along when you're in your third year with 4 employees, team members. I like the word team members.
I do too.
But if you're rolling around like that, the idea really isn't like, look, you don't have to like position yourself in the market to be bought because I'll be honest with you, that's not a thing. Maybe someone will buy you, but they're not, that's like, you're not selling to a behemoth for a multiple of EBITDA. It's not happening. But what you can do is to begin to clean up your books, begin to clean up your processes, begin to think about a bigger picture than just getting through Wednesday, and in that process of building a more organized, a more stable business, you have a better business that's probably, I would bet heavily that you're going to generate better income and better stability and better lives for the people that work there. And then you can start building a business that has options to then sell to someone when you get to a certain level. All of that is good. And you don't have to sell to anyone ever if you don't want to. But it's nice to have options. It's sort of like in the dating world.
Yeah.
It's nice to have options. If Susie with the blonde hair doesn't really want to go out with you, that's all right. You got a phone number for Jenny, and Jenny might be a much better fit, she might be a much better match. It's funny how those things work out. But went on a tangent there, but just, keeping an idea of building your business to possibly go on without you is never going to be a bad idea.
And to think about how you fit in the greater picture.
There you go.
Is always good too. What are you providing that's greater?
Yeah. And so the whole time you were talking, I was really thinking of really my favorite Zig Ziglar quote that I know I get wrong, but to paraphrase, Zig Ziglar, if you don't know who that is, please go look him up. I think he's been gone for a little while, but this Mississippi, I don't know, success coach or, whatever, personal development guy, but he was fantastic.
God rest his soul.
He really did say, you can have everything you want out of life as long as you help enough people get what they want out of life. And I'm like, oh my God. So if you're out there and you're helping enough people get what you want out of life, what they want out of life, you ultimately will get what you want. It just takes time and effort.
Another thing that this experience last week showed me too.
What's that?
It showed me that there's no stupid ideas.
Okay.
Meaning you would think in 2024, medical procedures would be, there's no innovation that could happen there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And what it showed me too is if there's a need in like medical intervention still, there's needs for
everything. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because you would think that
highly regulated.
Yeah, highly regulated. There's no there's nothing that could happen new.
Yeah.
But there's tons. If you listen to the guys, so part of it was these large companies getting up on stage saying, this is what we're looking, this is the technology that we need you, small businesses to create.
Yeah, we're having an issue with this.
We're having an issue with this.
Get going, build it up, make it viable for us, and we'll buy it.
So, right. And so in your industry, look at where the problem is.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the Zig-Ziglar quote. What problem can you solve that's currently needed?
Yeah.
In whatever you're doing.
Yeah, help enough of those people.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. Hey, thank you for listening. And thank you for supporting this podcast. If you're new, man, tell some friends. Like us, subscribe, all that jazz. Leave a review. That would be fantastic, especially if it's a 5-star review. If it's a bad review, just email us. Let us know what that is. And we'll probably see the bad review, but just email us or message us somehow. If you've been listening for a while, thank you. And maybe like us and share us with someone that you think that could use this message. Help us spread the word. And then last but not least, thank you to our sponsors. And so if you are listening to this podcast and you like it, please take take the effort and the time to look these guys and girls up. And if you've got a service, if you got a need, and check these guys out. We would not endorse these people, over our podcast if we didn't personally use them and personally believe in what they do.
Every one of these people we use.
Yeah, every one of these people we know personally and have for a long time. I think most of them before we ever started this podcast. And we just appreciate their faith in the podcast, that they would actually help support it. And then in return, we happily, endorse their services and their products. I really can't say enough for these folks. So please give them the time and give them the option to win your business, because I think you'll be happily impressed with their services and their professionalism. Anything else, Keith?
If you want to know about sponsorship, hit us up and talk to us. We'd love to have you as a sponsor.
Anything after that?
That's it.
All right. Well, we hope you guys have another great week. Thank you for listening. Until next time.
Peace.
Thanks, Sid and Keith, for allowing me this opportunity to explain why Pro 356 Consulting is back, again, sponsoring and supporting the Overlap podcast. Number one, I just have found that this is a great podcast, that I share your values of the overlap concept, and I have found just so many great nuggets from listening to you guys. Number two is, I remember when you approached me at Hatch about starting a podcast, and I said, hey, that's why we built that podcasting studio at Coastal, and you guys took it up. And here we are. You've done 100 broadcasts, and now you're on the way to 200. And lastly, I just want to say that I just appreciate the way you guys do business, and I want to associate with you. So Pro 356 is glad to be back as a promoter and sponsor of the Overlap podcast.
Let me tell you about one of our sponsors, Chris Drogmiller. He's with CMD Fencing. One, I really appreciate his support to the podcast. He listens to the podcast, but long before that, he has done several projects for me at my home, at our business. and the dude just does an awesome job. One of the things I really like about him is it's basically just him and someone that helps him. His attention to detail is phenomenal. The work is always high quality. If you've ever had a fence built, you know that the gate itself and how it opens and shuts is kind of the stamp of quality. It always works well. I've made him make some interesting kind of fencing where it's all horizontal. He had no problems with that, did a great job. And the guy is freaking awesome. He's easy to work with and he does a fantastic job. He's a firefighter. So, you know, he works 2 days on and 2 days off. So he comes in and knocks my project out on the days that he's off. And the dude's awesome. You can find him on our website, overlaplife.com. You can find him on Facebook, CMD Fencing. And let's see, his phone number is 901-484-5546. So if you need a fence, need some fence work, call Chris Drogmiller, CMD Fencing. Look, not all of you have to deal with workman's comp, but those of you that do know that it's time consuming and it's a headache. Insurance in general feels like something that happens to you rather than for you. But partnering with someone that really knows their stuff, like Chris May, with LTN Insurance, you've heard him before on the podcast, offers you the opportunity to regain control of your insurance. By collaborating with Chris, you have the chance to craft a personalized plan that ensures you receive optimal coverage at the best price. At LTN Insurance, their foremost core value is centered on education rather than sales. Their core value actually says, we don't sell, we educate, because they truly believe in empowering you, the customer, with the knowledge to make informed decisions about your insurance. That's whether you do business with them or not. They want you to be informed. So you can trust Chris and look him up, give him a call, or go to the website ltninsurance.com.